Jealous wife demanded an open marriage. Cheated with her ex. And stalked me when I moved on. Now she wants to close our marriage. In a story filled with unexpected twists, a seemingly simple marriage agreement spiraled into something far more complex, with emotions and motives that slowly unraveled the deep connection between two people. Imagine dedicating 15 years of your life to someone, only for a single request to shatter the trust and harmony you once believed was unbreakable. This is a journey into a relationship filled with love, betrayal, jealousy, and difficult choices that shaped the lives of not just two people, but an entire family. It all began with a request that shook the foundation of what a marriage should be. After years together, the husband, 39 years old, found himself blindsided when his wife, 37, confessed that she wanted an open marriage. The revelation was as jarring as it was painful, because it forced him to confront questions about loyalty, intimacy, and what it meant to be a family. It was not a question of whether they loved each other, they did. It was the questioning of their deep connection that led her to express boredom and discontent. She spoke about wanting more out of life and, in doing so, unintentionally implied that he wasn't enough. The husband, who had always viewed marriage as an unbreakable bond between two people, resisted this demand at first. To him, an open marriage seemed like a betrayal of the trust they had painstakingly built over 15 years. But his wife had made it clear that there were only two choices: agree to her request, or face the reality of divorce. It was not an easy decision to make, especially with their children, a boy of 12 and a 14-year-old girl, caught in the middle of it all. Torn between saving his marriage and maintaining his self-respect, he reluctantly agreed to the open marriage, but not without setting some ground rules. These rules were designed to prevent any emotional entanglements that could potentially harm their family. No one was to be brought to their home. They would not discuss other partners. The children should remain unaware, and each partner had to be thoroughly vetted beforehand to ensure no health risks were involved. Most importantly, they agreed not to get involved with anyone they both knew. These rules seemed practical at the time, a set of guidelines that they both could live with, even if it hurt. Not long after they opened their marriage, his wife went out and returned at 4 in the morning. It didn't take long for him to realize that she had already chosen someone, her high school ex-boyfriend. As it later turned out, it was like she had been waiting for permission, and once she had it, she moved quickly. The husband tried to make it work for the sake of his family. It was a difficult adjustment for him, and while his wife was immediately involved with her ex, he was left to cope with his loneliness and the emptiness that came with it. Months later, the husband met Amber, a woman whose daughter was in the same school band as his own. Unlike his wife's relationship, which seemed laden with an unspoken emotional history, his involvement with Amber was purely physical. They shared an unspoken understanding. There were no expectations, no strings attached. It was liberating, almost therapeutic, for him to feel wanted again, to have something for himself when his marriage was feeling more like an arrangement than a partnership. For a while, things seemed to be getting better. His relationship with Amber filled a void, and it allowed him to cope with the new dynamics in his marriage. His wife, too, seemed content, as if they had both found a balance in fulfilling their individual needs outside the boundaries of their union. However, as the months passed, things took a turn. When the pandemic began, his wife's relationship with her ex fizzled out. She had assumed it was an open marriage on both ends. But when it became impossible for her ex to leave his home during lockdown, she realized he had been keeping his wife in the dark all along. The relationship ended, and for the first time, his wife found herself without an outside partner. It wasn't long before she discovered the existence of Amber, and despite the rules they had put in place, she took issue with her husband's relationship. She demanded that he end things with Amber. The husband pointed out that he had followed every rule they had agreed upon, including choosing someone they both didn't know well. His wife's demand seemed hypocritical, especially after the many months she spent with her ex-boyfriend. As tensions rose, she began showing signs of jealousy, a sentiment she had not displayed before. She confronted Amber, hoping to sabotage their relationship, and even resorted to following her husband to Amber's house to confront her directly. This was a moment of reckoning for the husband. His wife's behavior felt like a betrayal of everything they had agreed to. Not just their marriage but even the open relationship they had both wanted. It led him to realize just how one-sided the agreement had become, how his wife had been perfectly content as long as she had someone, but could not handle her husband's happiness outside of their marriage. When she demanded that they close their marriage once again, the husband set a condition: they would close the marriage permanently. And if they were to divorce, she would waive her right to spousal support. This led to a heated argument that revealed deeper cracks in their relationship. His wife hadn't worked since they married, and she refused to even entertain the idea of signing away her rights. To her, it seemed like a trap, a way for her husband to abandon her for Amber and leave her empty-handed. It didn't matter that it was her idea to open the marriage in the first place. The husband, meanwhile, was fed up with being threatened with divorce every time he stood his ground. He wasn't willing to be held hostage by her emotions any longer. The breaking point came when the husband discovered that his wife had manipulated their daughter into believing that he was having an affair, framing him as the one who had broken their family. This betrayal cut deep. His relationship with his children was something he held sacred, and for his wife to use their daughter as a pawn was beyond cruel. He showed his daughter the hotel receipts to prove he hadn't been staying with Amber, trying to salvage what was left of their trust. His wife, however, continued to deny everything, refusing to take responsibility for the lies she had told. In therapy, more uncomfortable truths emerged. His wife admitted that her desire to reconnect with her ex was driven by feelings of regret and unfinished business from high school. She wanted to rekindle what she had lost back then, to see if the spark still existed. This revelation only served to deepen the husband's resentment. It made him realize that his wife wasn't interested in exploring new things. She wanted to relive the past, to fill a void she had been carrying for years. The therapy sessions brought everything to the surface: the jealousy, the manipulation, the lies, and the deep-seated resentments that had been festering for years. It became clear that they were no longer the same people who had fallen in love 15 years ago. The trust had been shattered, and neither of them knew if it could ever be repaired. The husband moved out for a few days to clear his mind. But when he returned, he found that his wife's actions had alienated their daughter from him. Unable to cope with the lies and manipulation any longer, the husband decided it was time to end the marriage. He contacted an attorney and began the process of filing for divorce. It wasn't an easy decision. The thought of failing his marriage, of not being able to make it work, weighed heavily on him. He had tried, again and again, to hold things together, but every time he made progress, his wife's jealousy and dishonesty pulled him back. Amber, too, was no longer a part of his life. He had ended things with her when his wife demanded it, hoping that it would bring some peace back into his marriage. But it hadn't. Instead, it had only highlighted just how far apart they had drifted from each other. His wife's inability to accept his happiness outside of their marriage, her jealousy, and her need to control everything had made it impossible for them to move forward together. The final straw was when his wife confronted him about contacting her ex's wife to inform her about the affair. She was furious, accusing him of ruining another family. To the husband, this was the height of hypocrisy. His wife had been willing to destroy their family for the sake of her own needs. Yet she refused to see the damage she had caused. He realized that there was no future for them together, that the woman he had fallen in love with was no longer the same person standing in front of him. This story isn't just about betrayal and jealousy. It's about the choices we make, the boundaries we set, and how we navigate the complexities of love, commitment, and freedom. It's about the importance of communication, of being honest with ourselves and our partners about what we need and what we can't compromise on. It's about understanding that sometimes love isn't enough, that trust, respect, and honesty are just as important in holding a relationship together. In the end, the husband learned that sacrificing his own needs for the sake of keeping his marriage intact was not the answer. He learned that setting boundaries and standing up for himself was necessary, even if it meant letting go of the person he loved. He learned that true love isn't about control or manipulation. It's about giving each other the freedom to grow, to make mistakes, and to find happiness, even if that happiness isn't with each other. As for the wife, her actions serve as a cautionary tale about the dangers of jealousy and control. Her need to have things her way, her inability to accept her husband's happiness, and her attempts to manipulate their children ultimately led to the downfall of their marriage. Her story is a reminder that love cannot thrive in an environment of control. That trust and respect are the foundation of any successful relationship. For anyone facing similar challenges, this story serves as a reminder that it's okay to walk away when a relationship becomes toxic. It's okay to set boundaries, to demand respect, and to prioritize your own well-being. Love should lift you up, not weigh you down. It should bring out the best in you, not make you question your worth. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is let go. This journey of a jealous wife demanding an open marriage and the unexpected turns it took is not just a story of betrayal and heartbreak. It's also a story of growth, of finding strength in the face of adversity, and of learning when to let go. It's a story that teaches us about the complexities of love, the importance of trust, and the power of honesty. And, most importantly, it's a story that reminds us that our happiness is worth fighting for, even if it means making difficult choices along the way. I hate for suspecting a hidden affair between my husband and my best friend due to her flirty behavior and his dislike for her. There was something heavy lingering in the air, a shadow that hung above everything. The quiet suspicion gnawed at the back of Emma's mind. It wasn't just one isolated moment, but an accumulation of small oddities, things she couldn't ignore anymore. She'd been with her husband, Alex, for over a decade, and they shared a seemingly stable life, until her best friend Maria came into the picture. Maria was a friend from Emma's college days, a companion from her past, one who was bright, outgoing, and loved by everyone. She had always been the more confident one compared to Emma, who, despite her talents and inner warmth, always felt invisible next to Maria's radiance. But lately, that warmth Emma felt with Alex seemed to be fading, replaced by something she could only describe as a looming sense of unease. Emma couldn't help but feel that there was something going on between Alex and Maria. She knew it sounded ridiculous. After all, Maria was her closest friend and Alex was her loving husband. But there were just too many strange things that didn't add up. It all started at a dinner party 6 months ago, at Maria's place. Maria had been acting overly familiar with Alex, laughing at his jokes in that exaggerated way she never used before, touching his arm every time he said something even mildly amusing, and shooting glances his way that didn't quite fit in the bounds of friendship. Alex looked uncomfortable, and later, in the car on their way home, he brought it up. "I think Maria was being a bit weird tonight," Alex had said, choosing his words carefully. She was flirting. Emma didn't want to believe it. Maria was her friend, but Alex's words stayed with her, uncomfortably lodged in her chest. A week later, Maria joined Emma at her gym, saying she wanted to take yoga classes together, something they had talked about for a long time. Emma was thrilled initially. The familiarity of Maria's presence was comforting, and she enjoyed having someone to share her yoga sessions with. But slowly, she realized Maria was spending less time in the yoga classes and more time in the weights area, where Alex was. She would flirtatiously ask Alex for help, requesting his support when lifting weights, and dressing in what could only be described as minimal attire. Alex had mentioned it again, saying that Maria was making him feel uncomfortable and that he thought Emma should have a word with her. Emma finally confronted Maria. She told her about Alex's discomfort, expecting Maria to apologize or laugh it off. Instead, Maria had reacted defensively, her tone sharp, almost hurtful. "Are you kidding me? I've known Alex for years. He's like a brother to me," Maria had snapped, eyes wide with disbelief. Emma felt a pang of guilt for even bringing it up, and she decided to let it go. But she couldn't deny that. From then on, she began to look at Maria with different eyes, not as her beloved friend but as someone who might be a threat. Then came Maria's birthday party, the event that became a breaking point for everything. The night was supposed to be fun, just friends gathering for drinks. Maria had been in high spirits, pushing tequila shots on everyone, her laughter echoing around her apartment. The atmosphere was loud, crowded, the room spinning with intoxicated laughter and the hum of bad decisions. Maria had insisted that Emma and Alex stay over in her guest room. And given how drunk they all were, it seemed sensible. In the middle of the night, Emma woke up, her head pounding, her vision fuzzy from the alcohol. She reached out instinctively for Alex, but her hands met nothing but cold sheets. Panic gripped her heart for a moment before she heard muffled noises. Soft moaning coming from somewhere in the apartment. The fear settled deep within her stomach, twisting her insides painfully. Emma clumsily searched for her phone, the darkness around her only amplifying her dread. She knocked something off the nightstand, the sound echoing sharply in the quiet. And suddenly, the noises stopped. She could hear a door open. Soft footsteps. Emma threw the blanket aside, her feet hitting the cold floor, and she stumbled towards the hallway. That's where she saw him, Alex, standing there, shirtless, sweat glistening on his body. He was startled by her sudden presence. "I was just using the bathroom," he said, his voice raspy, his eyes wide with something that looked almost like fear. He explained that he had taken his shirt off because it was too hot. Emma wanted to believe him. She desperately did, but her heart wouldn't stop racing, her thoughts spiraling out of control. Her trust, the very foundation of their marriage, shaking. The next morning, as they left Maria's apartment, Emma couldn't stop herself from noticing the details. Maria was alone, naked under her sheets, and she got up to see them off. Her demeanor casual, friendly, like nothing had happened, but something had changed. Emma could feel it. Once they got home, she spent the entire day agonizing over her thoughts, replaying every moment of the night. When Alex finally came out of the shower, she confronted him. "Were you with Maria last night?" she asked, her voice trembling, her heart pounding. Alex's reaction was immediate: anger, disbelief, hurt. He told her she was being paranoid, that he hated Maria and only tolerated her because she was Emma's friend. He insisted he would never cheat, especially not with Maria. His words were meant to comfort her, but the damage was done. The seed of doubt had already been planted. Emma couldn't let go. She searched his phone, checked his messages, hoping, maybe even praying, that she wouldn't find anything. And she didn't. There were no suspicious messages between Alex and Maria, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. A few days later, Maria messaged Alex on Facebook, thanking him for the great night they had. And Emma's world shattered. She confronted Maria, who, to Emma's shock, broke down and admitted that something had happened that night. Maria claimed that Alex had come to her room after everyone else had fallen asleep. They were both drunk, she said, and one thing led to another. She felt Alex had taken advantage of her, that he had gone too far when she wasn't in the state to say no. Emma was devastated. Maria had always been her friend, her confidant, her partner in crime. How could Alex do this to her, with her best friend of all people? When Emma confronted Alex, he denied everything. He was furious that she would believe Maria over him, that she would think he was capable of such a thing. He packed his bags, his expression one of exhaustion, and he left. Emma was alone with her thoughts, her doubts, her broken heart. Who should she believe? The friend who had been by her side for years, or the man she had vowed to spend her life with? In the days that followed, Emma couldn't think straight. She spent hours replaying everything, trying to find answers that just weren't there. She reached out to Maria again, needing clarity, but Maria's story seemed to change, details blurring. Emma felt like she was losing her mind, questioning every single memory, every interaction, every word that had been said. But then something shifted. A comment from one of Maria's coworkers made its way to Emma. A comment that hinted at something Maria might have done, something that didn't involve Alex at all. It turned out, one of Maria's other friends had been in her room that night. The moaning Emma had heard wasn't Alex at all, it was Maria and someone else. Maria had lied, twisted the story to make herself look like a victim, and in doing so, she had torn Emma's world apart. Emma felt an overwhelming mix of emotions: relief, anger, betrayal. She had almost lost everything: her marriage, her sanity, because she trusted the wrong person. It was Maria all along, manipulating, stirring drama, and feeding off Emma's insecurities. Emma finally understood that Maria wasn't the friend she had always thought she was. Maria had been a toxic presence in her life, someone who thrived on chaos and drama, and Emma had been too blinded by her loyalty to see it. Emma apologized to Alex, tears streaming down her face as she begged for his forgiveness. Alex, still hurt, accepted her apology, but there was a new wariness in his eyes, a distance that hadn't been there before. He agreed to work on their marriage, but he made it clear that Maria could no longer be a part of their lives. Emma agreed. She cut off all ties with Maria, focusing instead on rebuilding her relationship with Alex, on regaining the trust she had lost. She also started therapy, realizing that she needed to work on herself, on her insecurities, her tendency to let others dictate her worth. She needed to learn to trust herself before she could truly trust anyone else. Over time, things began to heal. Emma and Alex found their way back to each other. Slowly, cautiously, they rebuilt their marriage, brick by brick, with honesty and patience. Emma learned to value herself, to understand that she was enough, that she didn't need Maria or anyone else to validate her worth. In the end, Emma's story serves as a powerful reminder that love, trust, and respect form the bedrock of any relationship. It's a journey of growth, of learning from mistakes, and of realizing that sometimes, the people we think we need in our lives are the ones we must let go of to truly find happiness.